So, you want to know why I did it? Pretty simple start to this conversation. Oh right, this isn't a conversation. This is me simply relating the events that led up to this point. The point when a child services agent, whose world has been to help the young and the innocent find safety in life. How someone like me, a shepherd for kids to be free of abusive parents and real-life monsters. How Nathan Delapour could have the blood of a young girl on his hands. Fine. Let's start with my work with Avila Arthur. Avila was a sweet, raven-haired girl of 7 years old, daughter to Dr. Jeremy Arthur, the well-off plastic surgeon, and Moira Arthur, a stay-at-home mother. She had everything a little girl could possibly want. A well-rounded home life. She was well-liked at school. And, while a little dim-witted, I admit, she exuded an innocence and sweetness that made her a favorite amongst her teachers and peers. You can easily imagine it, can't you? A young, porcelain-skinned girl with black hair with pink bows and an adorable dress, playing and giggling. A cheery smile that reminds you why children are such a precious treasure. Imagine it. I want you to imagine it. You got it in your head. Good. I want you to hold that there while I tell you the rest. On September 2nd, her mother had passed of a stroke. As anyone with half a brain can understand, a person deals with grief in different ways. Unfortunately for Avila, her grief had taken on the form of violence. Her demeanor had changed since her mother's passing to being quick to anger and frustration. She would lash out at the smallest things, especially when she didn't understand them, violently slamming her hands down on her desk and frightening people around her. The day she had struck one of her classmates dead in the neck for making a snarky remark to her, had landed her case quickly onto my desk. I set up sessions at the school to sit and talk with her. It was very clear that her anger was the byproduct of her mother's passing, and we spoke at great lengths about it. I did my best to guide her to a better manner of dealing with grief, giving her examples of how to better cope, including scenarios in ways she could best understand them, giving her examples from my own life, and I even went on to ask her about her father and how he was dealing with the passing. When asked, I could see the sincere concern in her face, and after a moment of silence, she spoke.
Ever since Mommy died, he's been so sad. He just walks around the house like he doesn't know where to go. I hear him up at night in his room crying. Only time I see him smile now is if he plays with the birds we have. He reads books with pictures of birds. It's scary when he looks at the ones with their skeletons.
And I'd ask, why do you think Daddy is so interested by birdies? And her response would be,
because birds are free. He says that's what Mommy is like now. He'll smile, but it's not like a real smile. It's a sad smile. And he'll say, Mommy is flying free and happy.
It pinged my heart a bit. Clearly, the father was having a hard time dealing with his wife's death, and who wouldn't? I would make a point to make a suggestion that he be evaluated. Red tape, however, would make that a bit of a difficult thing, and besides, the stronger concern was for Avila. I visited her several times throughout the rest of the month and watched her disposition get better and was rather surprised at her ability to process her mother's passing and understanding of her father's depression. I was happy for her as I watched her become less and less prone to anger. She would even refer to me as her friend when children would ask who I was when our sessions were done. I was still concerned over her father's state of mind and wondered if it may cause any harm to her. But her turnaround did make me feel comfortable, at least. Unfortunately, at the end of September, I became entangled with another case that took my attention off of Avila Arthur and her father. In our last session, I presented her with a small stuffed teddy bear, which she cuddled incessantly. It made me give a sad smile as I informed her that I wasn't going to be able to see her anymore. Avila, this is going to be our last meeting for a while. I have to help another little boy for a bit. She froze. I could see something cross her face that should never be expressed by a child. Red, hot, anger. Her voice was frantic.
What do you mean? No, you can't! You're my friend! Who am I supposed to talk to?
Her voice shook as that rage began to reel in tears. Avila, there are many other little boys and girls who have troubles. I need to help them. Please don't be mad. Though I spoke with comforting words, I prayed that she did not relapse into her aggressive behavior. But I will always be here to keep all the kids safe, okay?
But who will I talk to? Who will keep me safe when you're busy?
The anger had left, but her voice was still so heart-wrenchingly sad. You can talk to your friends here at school, and you can always talk to Teddy here. I smiled, but still felt sick for breaking her little heart. And if you are ever are in trouble, you know my name is Nathan Delapour. Take this. I handed her my card. If you're ever in trouble, just call that number or give that number to a police officer or teacher to call, okay? She took it and gave my arm a quick hug.
Goodbye, Mr. Delapour.
That was the last time I saw Avila Arthur, the innocent little girl. On the night of November the 7th, with piles of paperwork on one side of me, I was still poring over the current case file of a young boy. After our many sessions, I had finally managed to break the wall he had made to discover his stepmother had been verbally and physically abusing him. As I was reading, I received a call requesting my presence to assist with a child at the aftermath of a rather ugly police raid. It was unorthodox, but regardless, I went. Normally, I would be called after the fact. However, in this case, and to my surprise, the child in question was requesting me by name before she would come out. I was told that the cause of the raid had been screams and screeches heard throughout the night and was prompted by the neighbors to call the police. The most distinct point was that the screams sounded like that of a child. I asked for the address, and my heart sank deep to the ground. The address was the home of Jeremy Arthur, and the child requesting for me was Avila Arthur. As I sped toward the residence, I was briefed a bit more on the situation. Evidently, shortly after our last session, Avila had stopped attending school. Her father would call in stating that she was sick for the first week or so, but soon the calls simply stopped altogether. I chided and screamed at myself for not checking up on her, for not looking at my paperwork more thoroughly, and for letting this current case take up so much of my attention, for not following up to ensure the father had been properly evaluated. Several cop cars and their flashing lights met me as I arrived at the house. A large, two-story building that clearly said money lived there. I quickly ran up to the yellow tape door. An officer held out his hand to stop me. An explanation and ID showing who I was and why I was there bought my entrance, but not before I received a brief warning that this was not going to be for the faint of heart. I steeled my nerves and walked in. I was greeted with a charnel house of madness.